The mostly peaceful ceasefire got a little less peaceful over the weekend after the Iranians struck two separate commercial tankers that drew responses from the Trump administration Friday and Saturday, striking some 10 military targets, including targets that were struck before, which is a controversial point we'll get to. But first, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Walls, on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream, providing some perspective on those strikes. Basically, again, Trump demonstrating that he is willing to make the Iranians learn the hard way if they won't learn the peaceful way.
If the Iranian regime thinks for a second that President Trump is going to stand by, while Iran continues to attack international shipping without a response, or our bases without a response, they're sadly mistaken. And they saw that loud and clear over the last few nights, where we'll continue to militarily, if needed, take down their infrastructure that they're trying to use to illegally control an international waterway. And Shannon, just one more point on that. That's not just the United States. That's the entire international community. A UN record, 143 nations have agreed with us that this is in violation of international law. Even the Chinese government has said you cannot be taking tolls or fees. Iran was apparently relying on Oman across the waterway to help it set up this new infrastructure. And now Oman, just yesterday, has rejected the idea of tolls or fees. So they're completely isolated here. President Trump's not going to stand for it. And meanwhile, we continue to move ships out by the dozens every day. And world oil prices are not just stable, they're dropping. So Iran's attempt to hold the world hostage and their economies hostage are completely failing.
Perhaps, but in terms of what Iran's posture is with respect to tolling the strait, regardless of what Oman is saying, you had a senior Iranian military leader named Mohsen Rezaei who said, in fact, we are going to toll the strait.
But regarding fees, there is a cost dimension to this matter. There is a tolls discussion, a fees discussion. Our current discussion is about service costs in the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, we want to maintain the security of the Strait of Hormuz. We want to protect the environment of the Strait of Hormuz. We must establish insurance mechanisms so that if incidents occur, ships that encounter problems are covered to reduce their risk. And when we provide all of this, these costs cannot come out of the pockets of the Iranian people. These costs must be collected from those who are transporting oil through this strait.
So I know that, and I'll play it in a second, News Nation reporting on the White House response to that statement. And the response is something we've heard before, which is you can't believe what they're saying publicly because they're saying something else privately. Well, that's interesting, except to the extent, which do we believe they're going to actually do? Are they going to do what they're committing to privately, or are they going to do what they're saying they're going to do publicly?
Just moments ago, the White House formally responding to our interview with Dr. Rezaei. This is from Anna Kelly, White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary, saying there are no tolls, no insurance costs, and no other charges of any kind being sought or received by Iran on ships traveling the Strait of Hormuz. The president has been clear that Iran cannot toll the strait. That was a big part of the reason you saw Secretary of State Marco Rubio here in the region this week, as many Gulf state allies have articulated concerns as they've heard this Iranian perspective that they intend to institute fees for ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. He said to them that any agreement struck between Iran and the United States will protect them from any tolls and that none will be allowed to be passed down. And moreover, this week, President Trump was asked if a deal was put on the table in which Iran could toll the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for other deals and other appropriations on the table. The president said that would not fly with him. He described it as a quote unquote game changer and would not accept a deal that tolls the Strait of Hormuz.
President Trump also posting on Truth Social, United States aircraft just struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites for violating the ceasefire agreement. Again, it is very possible that they will never learn. There may come a point when we are no longer able to be reasonable and we will be forced to militarily complete the job that we very successfully started. If that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist. No longer exist. Right. We've heard that before. I mean, that's, he's in danger of becoming the boy who cried wolf with these uh, categorical statements of that size. One thing on the strike, though, as I mentioned, it's a bit in controversy. I saw some suggesting that this was sort of pawing at the Iranian regime to send a message that maybe at some point in the not too distant future we'll get serious, but it wasn't a serious strike, like an impactful one, like a message sender. And then I heard a different perspective from former Special Forces officer Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, who said that this was actually very strategically shrewd, this strike, even though it is hitting some targets that were hit before. Take a listen.
So, well, let me address those strikes first from the tactical operational level, because I think it's important, because Bandar Kong and Bandar Lengay, which are this close to the vicinity along that Bandar Lengay province or county within the Hormuzgan province, right on the coastline, those two locations were struck back in April during part of the kinetic campaign, the strikes. So this is not the first time, right there where that red dot is up on the coast of Iran, north of Kashem. This isn't the first time that Bandar Kong has been struck in coordination with or part of the target series of things that were also being struck on the island of Kashem, which you see is right pretty close to it in proximity. So when I look at these latest strikes on Sarik Island, well, you have the IRGC Navy 2nd Marine Division or Maritime Division headquarters, and you have the Iranian Navy headquarters, where the IRGC is kind of in command and control of many of the swift boat fleet, while the Iranian Navy is in charge of, primarily some of those Coast Guard-like capabilities along the coastline, mainly for defense. So striking that again, that's a concern. That shows me the United States is specifically striking capabilities along the lines of command and control and the ability to project power. And then on Keshem Island specifically, that where those strikes took place is right where that airfield, which was once the Keshem International Airport, that airport that is right there. So if you're looking at conducting some type of maritime into land joint forced entry operation, you would look at specifically doing that, disabling command and control.
That's the other interesting point, is that his suggestion that it could be the predicate to something more substantial. Okay, that's a lot, and I didn't mean to make you break out your Middle East maps, but you wanted to get specifics here. For more on all this, Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
So let's start with the strategery, to borrow a word, with respect to the strikes. Are you in sort of the Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar camp that this was shrewd and appropriate and could be a predicate to something more substantial in the not too distant future, and the Iranians know that, so they will take heed? Or was it just performative, as others have suggested?
I'm kind of between those two positions. I don't think this is necessarily the predicate of a land operation or anything other than punitive strikes for their shots at the ships. But they're good targets. They're the drone storage sites. They're the command and control positions. They're the kind of things you'd want to hit if you weren't going to do anything else ever again, or if you were doing a preparation. I don't think it's just performative. I think that's kind of a position that somebody on the left or somebody on the loony part of the right would love to paint this whole operation as just performative. And I think those people are just too hung up on getting mad at President Trump and not doing good analysis. Look, Iran struck the ships. They're not supposed to strike the ships under this agreement. They've been told over and over again they're not going to get to collect tolls. They don't own the Straits of Hormuz. So this is a reminder, because of the hits, that they are not running the show. and they got slapped back down. Now, should it have been a massive strike, the ender of the whole thing? I don't know. I mean, I would have liked that better. Frankly, I'm getting tired of this tit for tat stuff. But the president and his advisors are the ones making this call, not Steve Bucci, and I'm okay with that for now. But we'll see where it goes. I think Iran is still on the stupid side of the line and still thinking they're going to be able to bully us and the rest of the world into giving them their way. They are like the ultimate petulant child at this point. And President Trump is, I'm sorry to say, is tending towards being the overindulgent parent and giving them more than they should have. They should have gotten the spanking a while ago, in my opinion. But we'll wait and see. That could still be on the board, could happen as we're speaking for all we know. I don't think it is, but it could. And it could come at any minute. We don't have to do a massive deployment to do that. We've got all the pieces in place to do that kind of punitive enough's enough strike. But I don't think it's they're quite there yet.
Another perspective, just trying to look at this in the light most favorable to Trump for the point of discussion. Another perspective from an Iranian is that there is dissension in the ranks between the hardliners and the slightly less hardliners. That the hardliners who don't want a deal have been outmaneuvered by and some of those who are looking for a deal. And the argument that's made is that Pezeshkian and the president, who's a puppet, of course, and Arghachi, the foreign minister, want a deal, and the hardliners don't. And they, along with Galibaf, have moved to sort of marginalize the opponents to the deal and silence any sort of public opposition to the deal. And the hardliners are starting to figure that out, but they're on their heels, as it were. And so while they're turning on each other and President Trump continues to, sort of, as you say, sort of play the game in a very restrained fashion, he's providing opportunity for that chaos within the regime to metastasize and maybe get a better deal than they want, maybe see some fissure that could be further exploited. I don't know exactly what the end game is, but I guess the predicate is to believe or not believe that there is this dissension in the ranks, there are these factions, there are these potential fissures forming, and that could work to our strategic advantage.
Well, I think it's pretty clear there's dissensions in their ranks. There are different positions there. No one has gained complete control to run the government. There still at least have the fiction of these multi-headed government of the IRGC, the mullahs, and the politicians. And to your earlier question is we don't know which way they're going to go. Are they going to go with what they've signed, which one group has signed but not the others, or are they going to go with what they're saying, which we're getting multiple versions of that as well? It's still pretty wide open and Wild Westish. And one hopes that our intel and policy leadership have a better handle on where that stands than you and I might without access to the high-end intel. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we're still talking to the Israelis and not being stupid about that, and taking advantage of their intel that they have from people on the ground as well. But this is still kind of wide open, Dan. We really don't know which way this is going to go. We don't have the ability to say it's going to go this way and that's it, short of, the kind of massive bombing, like Russia did in Chechnya kind of bombing. We don't want to do that because there's a ton of people there, the majority of people by orders of magnitude, that are not the problem, that it's the leadership. So, Will we go back to a kinetic response, heavier, again, hopefully targeted on those regime figures? Yeah, I think that's where we're probably going to go. Will that be enough? I don't know. I have to hope. But right now, we can't allow Iran to get even a piece of some of this nonsense they're demanding and asserting. As the piece you played on, when the UN, China, Oman, and all these other Arab countries are all lined up on the side of a correct interpretation, we can't let that pass. We can't allow Iran to sort of slide past this and end up being the winner here. That's just unacceptable.
I wanted to ask you a question about Hegseth and the Department of War. He's getting it from, well, really one side, but in a couple of manifestations. One is from like retired generals, admirals like McRaven and McCaffrey, who are saying that he's politicizing the senior ranks of the U.S. military. And then he also was taking some heat over the allegation is that he took away the rank from all military chaplains because they're not war fighters. The reality is they didn't have their rank taken away. You replaced their rank with chaplain corps insignia to make them more approachable. And the argument actually is that the chaplain corps likes this change because they're counselors, not officers with commands. So this heat that he's taken, I mean, it seems to me one of the, and so correct me if I'm wrong, one of the best things that Hegseth has done is depoliticize the military ranks and move away from what had previously done. And of course, those who were supportive of the politicization that occurred under Biden see depoliticizing as politicizing.
Exactly right. Yeah, look, what Hegseth is doing is massively approved of by people wearing the uniforms. Now, Barry McCaffrey, you can strike off immediately. He's one of the most politicized general officers we've ever had, and you don't know which direction he's going to come from. And he's been away for a long time. He is not as well thought of as he thinks he is. Strike that one off. McRaven, a little different. McRaven had a good rep when he was in command. People thought well of him. This is a new thing for him to step in to the political side of it. And while I think he's a brilliant leader, I think he's wrong on this one. I don't think what Hegseth is doing is a problem. The chaplain stuff, that's really stupid. The criticism of it. Everybody knows they're still officers. They still have their rank structure. He's just in their day-to-day uniforms, having them wear their chaplain's insignia to emphasize their religious role as opposed to their chain of command role. I can guarantee you, if a chaplain walks up to a soldier and makes a correction on him because their uniform's not right, that kid knows that's a commissioned officer that's making that correction, and they're going to listen to it. So he's not, diminishing them at all. If anything, he's just putting a spotlight on their religious and counseling role, which is what the chaplains always want anyway. They are happy to act as officers. You might have had chaplains as jump masters and things like that, but they really see their role for the Lord in whichever way they define it, as their primary role. So look, the retired generals and admirals are always going to have their axes to grind one direction or another, but you characterized it exactly right. The ones that are screaming now, for the most part, McRaven probably an exception, are the ones who we would have labeled as woke and they got ahead for DEI or whatever. They're really ticked about what Hegseth is doing. They see that as politicalization, but for the life of me, how they could not recognize that how the side that they're on was not politicalization also is just beyond me. So I let this ride, and I think history is going to end up looking well at Pete Hegseth's time in the Pentagon.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just understand, probably guys like Millie are probably upset. I paid for all these DSA memberships and nobody's using them, and so he's probably upset about that.
Exactly.
I would say, so this is out there, but I wanted to get your reaction to it. It's even something that is plausible. Maybe this probably hasn't bubbled up to your surface because you don't spend time scouring the internet looking for the bizarre like I do. But in Eastern Europe, there is intel that apparently came from a Ukrainian who was captured by the Russians, and this has to be misinformation, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, essentially, he's saying that the Ukrainians are crowdsourcing warfighting. Ukrainian sources outsourcing drone operations to gamers all over the world by connecting hundreds of drones to a virtual server and inviting skilled drone operators to take out Russians with cash prizes awarded for each. I mean, is that a game show fight? That cannot be real.
I've never seen anything like that. If they can pull that off, that's pretty brilliant.
I know. I mean, it's
not terribly controllable is the problem.
Right. What if it's a virtual server? Can't Russians hack in and use their drones against them? I mean, right? Wouldn't that be
exactly? And the Russians have done similar things, not with kinetic warfare, but in the past they've done that with cyber warfare, where they go out and just sort of hire cyber organized criminals to do things. Sometimes they pay them money. Sometimes they just give them protection or look the other way for their criminal activities. And the quid pro quo is they go, attack some of the people that Russia is having a problem with. But that was always particularly cyber related. This now is an extension of that idea. I could see people trying to do that. I'm not sure it's a grand idea as a way to fight a war. That's like, the Romans inviting all the barbarians in to be part of their army, and then they turn around and take over Rome.
Well, right.
There's some downsides to that.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, maybe if you're a little light on personnel, I don't know.
It's a way to augment your personnel for sure, but I that's just me opining on what you just said. I don't have any knowledge of it, though.
All right. It's just crazy enough for conversation. Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Dan. Have a great week, and happy 4th of July.
Same to you. Happy Independence Day. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
It's news, opinion, and insight at the speed of your life. Streaming at 560.